3 days before my stepdaughter's wedding, she called me with a request. Not an invitation. A warning. Don't wear your uniform, she said. It'll embarrass me in front of Daniel's family. 22 years. 22 years I served this country. 2 deployments. A folded flag from my late husband's funeral sitting on my mantel. And my own stepdaughter, the girl I raised since she was 7 years old, was ashamed of it. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just said, okay. But 3 days later, she texted me again. This time, she didn't want me gone. She wanted my money. We need $4,500 for our honeymoon. I looked at that message for a long time. Then I sent her $10, with one word attached. Congratulations. That night, I changed every lock in my house. And the next morning, when she showed up screaming on my porch, she found out exactly what kind of woman she'd tried to erase. My name is Karen Mitchell, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, retired. And this is the story of how my stepdaughter learned that respect isn't something you can uninvite. I married Robert Ellis when his daughter, Ashley, was 7 years old. Her mother had passed when she was 4, and Robert was doing his best, raising a little girl alone while holding down a job at the county courthouse. I wasn't looking to be anyone's mother. I was a young officer, focused on my career, sure I'd never have children of my own. But something about that little girl, quiet, watchful, always sitting a little too still, made me want to stay. I stayed for 15 years. I was there for her first day of middle school when her father couldn't get off work. I was there when she broke her arm falling off her bike, sitting in the emergency room until 3 in the morning. I paid for her braces. I paid for her prom dress. I sat through every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every fever in the middle of the night. Robert passed away 6 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. And in that funeral home, it was me standing beside Ashley, holding her hand while she sobbed into my shoulder. I promised her father, at his bedside months earlier when he first got sick, that I would always look after her. I meant it. So when Ashley called me 8 months ago, voice bright and excited, telling me she was engaged to a man named Daniel, I cried happy tears. I offered to help pay for the wedding. I offered my house for the rehearsal dinner. I started planning what I'd wear. I never imagined that offer would come with conditions. The wedding planning started warm enough. Ashley sent me color swatches. She asked my opinion on flowers. For a few months, it felt like old times, like she still saw me as family. Daniel came from money. Real money. His father owned a chain of dealerships across 3 states, and his mother sat on the board of some charity gala circuit I'd never heard of. The first time I met them, at an engagement dinner, Daniel's mother looked at me like I was the caterer. I didn't think much of it at the time. Some people are just cold. But slowly, I noticed Ashley changing how she talked about me. She stopped introducing me as her mother. She started saying my stepmom with a strange little pause before it, like she was bracing herself. She stopped asking my opinion on the wedding. She stopped returning my calls as quickly. I told myself she was just stressed. Brides get stressed. I told myself it didn't mean anything. Then came the phone call, 3 days before the wedding, the one that changed everything. Karen, she said, and I noticed she didn't call me Mom. I need to ask you something, and I need you not to make it a big deal. My stomach tightened. Go ahead. It's about the wedding. Daniel's family they're very traditional, very image conscious. And I was thinking for the ceremony, maybe you could just wear a normal dress instead of your uniform. I sat down slowly on the edge of my bed. I always wear my uniform to formal events, Ashley. You know that. I know, but this is different. This is my wedding. Business partners. And I just don't want anything to feel, I don't know, too serious. Too military. It might make people uncomfortable. 22 years. 2 deployments. A husband who once told me the day I made Lieutenant Colonel was the proudest day of his life. It would embarrass me, she said, so quietly I almost missed it. I'm sorry, but it would. I didn't yell. I didn't cry, not on that call. I simply said, okay, Ashley, whatever you need. She thanked me, relieved, and hung up quickly, like she'd been dreading that call for weeks. I sat in silence for a long time afterward. not because of the uniform. I could have worn a regular dress. That was never really the issue. The issue was that my own daughter, the girl I raised, fed, comforted, and loved without condition, was ashamed of me. Ashamed of the woman who built a life around keeping people like her safe. I told myself I would let it go. I decided I would still attend, still smile, still be the supportive stepmother I had always been. Family isn't about being thanked. It's about showing up. Then 3 days later, my phone buzzed again. A text this time, not a call. Hey. So we're a little short on the honeymoon fund. Daniel's parents covered the venue and catering, but flights and the resort in Maui are more than we planned. We need about $4,500 more. Any chance you could help? It would mean so much to us. Smiling face with hearts. I stared at that message until the screen dimmed and went black. She had just told me my presence, in the uniform I earned with my blood, sweat, and years away from home, would embarrass her in front of Daniel's family. But my money? My money was welcome. My money didn't need to be hidden in a corner. My money wasn't an embarrassment. I thought about everything I had given her. The years of school lunches, birthday parties, late-night talks after breakups, tuition help for college, the down payment I quietly contributed toward her first apartment. None of that seemed to matter now. I had become, in her eyes, a checkbook with an inconvenient uniform attached. I opened my banking app. My hands were steady, steadier than I expected. I sent her exactly $10. And in the memo line, I typed one word: congratulations. Then I set down my phone, walked to my closet, and looked at the uniform I had been told to hide. I touched the ribbons on the chest, each one a memory, each one a piece of a life I had given in service to something bigger than myself. That night, I called a locksmith. Some people mistake calm for weakness. I have never been one of those people, and after that night, Ashley would learn the same lesson too. I had given Ashley a spare key to my house years ago, back when she used to stop by to water my plants while I traveled for reserve duty. She still used that key sometimes, letting herself in to borrow things, drop off boxes for storage, or simply sit in my kitchen when she needed to talk. That house wasn't just a building to me. It was the home Robert and I built together. It was where I raised her. It held every memory I had left of my husband. And somewhere along the way, without ever asking, Ashley had started treating it like a place she was entitled to walk into whenever she pleased. Not anymore. The locksmith arrived within the hour. Professional, quiet, efficient. Within 40 minutes, every lock on every door had been replaced. I also called my bank the next morning and removed Ashley as an authorized user on the small joint savings account I had set up years ago for wedding expenses, an account she didn't know I still controlled the primary access to. I wasn't trying to destroy her wedding.
I want to be clear about that.
I never once considered showing up to cause a scene, exposing her in front of Daniel's family, or embarrassing her the way she was so afraid I would. I simply decided that a woman who was ashamed of me in public didn't deserve unlimited access to my private life. At 7:15 the next morning, my doorbell rang. Then it rang again, 3 more times in quick succession, followed by frantic knocking. I opened the door to find Ashley standing on my porch, still in pajama pants, hair pulled into a messy bun, phone in her hand, and an expression somewhere between confusion and panic. "My key doesn't work," she said instead of hello. "I changed the locks." "Why would you do that?" I studied her face for a moment before answering. "Ashley, you told me my uniform, the uniform I earned serving this country, would embarrass you in front of people you barely know. Then 3 days later, you asked me for $4,500 like nothing had happened." Her mouth opened, then closed. "I gave you $10, I continued, because that's about what our relationship is worth to you right now. And I changed the locks because I realized you don't see this as my home anymore. You see it as a resource. Something to use when it's convenient, and hide when it's not." "That's not fair," she said, her voice cracking. "It wasn't about you, it was about Daniel's parents. They're just really particular about." "About people like me?" I asked quietly. "People who actually worked for what they have." She didn't answer that. Ashley stood on my porch, arms wrapped around herself, and for the first time in months, I saw something other than stress or wedding excitement on her face. I saw shame. I didn't mean it like that, she whispered. Then how did you mean it? She was quiet for a long moment before the words finally spilled out, messy and unguarded. Daniel's mom made a comment a few weeks ago. She said military spouses always try to make everything about their service, that it comes off as showing off. I panicked. I didn't want her thinking our side of the family was, I don't know, less than. Less than. That phrase settled into my chest like a stone. So instead of standing up for me, I said, you decided it was easier to just erase me for a day. I didn't erase you. I invited you to the wedding. You invited a version of me that wouldn't embarrass you, I said. Not the real one. Tears started falling down her face now, but I didn't move to comfort her the way I always had before. Not this time. I raised you, I said. I sat in hospital waiting rooms for you. I worked double shifts to help pay for your college textbooks. And when your father passed, I didn't leave. I stayed because I promised him I would. But apparently, all of that only counts when it's not visible, when it doesn't come with ribbons on a jacket. Ashley sank down onto my porch step, defeated in a way I had never seen before. I don't know what to do. The wedding is tomorrow. Daniel's parents already think something's wrong because you're not in the family photos we sent for the seating chart. I sat down beside her, keeping some distance, but present. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'm going to think about whether I still want to attend. Not because I want to punish you, but because I need to decide if I want to be somewhere I'm only tolerated in a version that's convenient for everyone else. Please come, she said.
Please.
In your uniform. I was wrong. I didn't answer right away. I let her sit in that silence, the same silence I'd been sitting in for 3 days. I love you, Ashley, I finally said. That hasn't changed. But love doesn't mean I'll shrink myself so you feel comfortable. If I come tomorrow, I come as myself, uniform and all. And if that's still a problem for Daniel's family, then maybe I don't belong there, and that's all right too. She nodded, wiping her face. I'll talk to them. I promise. I should have stood up for you from the beginning. The next afternoon, I stood at the back of the small chapel, dressed exactly as I had planned to be, in my formal uniform, every ribbon and insignia in place, representing every year I had given in service. Ashley saw me the moment I walked in. She didn't look away, and she didn't look embarrassed. She smiled, a real smile, and gave a small nod toward the front row, where a seat had been saved for me. Daniel's mother glanced my way once. Whatever she thought, she kept it to herself. And honestly, by that point, it didn't matter to me anymore. During the reception, Ashley found me by the dessert table. Thank you for coming, she said. And for the uniform. I told Daniel's parents that you served this country for over 2 decades, and if that embarrasses anyone, it says more about them than it does about you. I felt something loosen in my chest that had been tight for days. I'm proud of you for saying that. I'm sorry it took almost losing you to say it. We hugged then, a real hug, the kind we used to share before wedding stress and other people's opinions got in the way. I never gave her the $4,500 for the honeymoon, and I never brought it up again. Some lessons need room to settle without being repeated. A few weeks after the wedding, Ashley called to tell me she and Daniel had decided to pay for their own honeymoon, a smaller trip, something they'd earned and planned together. It felt better that way, she told me, more like it was actually ours. She also asked, quietly, if I would be willing to give her a spare key again someday. I told her that trust, once shaken, rebuilds slowly. Not because I wanted to hold it over her, but because actions matter more than apologies, and I wanted to see steady change, not just guilt-driven promises. 6 months later, she still calls. She still visits. And last month, when she introduced me to a coworker at a family barbecue, she said, without hesitation, "This is my mom." She served over 20 years in the Army. I'm incredibly proud of her. No pause. No hesitation. No shame. Here's what I've learned after all of this. Respect isn't something you can ask people to hide away when it's inconvenient, and then request money from when it's needed. Family isn't measured by what you can extract from someone. It's measured by whether you stand beside them, especially when standing beside them isn't easy or fashionable. I didn't change my locks to punish Ashley. I changed them because I finally understood that boundaries aren't cruelty. They're clarity. They tell people exactly what kind of treatment you will and will not accept. If someone in your life asks you to shrink yourself, to hide the parts of you that took the most sacrifice to build, while still expecting your support, your money, or your presence when it benefits them, that's not love. That's convenience dressed up as family. Real family doesn't ask you to be invisible. Real family stands proud beside you, uniform, scars, sacrifices, and all. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't to shout or seek revenge. It's simply to change the locks and wait to see who actually deserves a key back into your life.
The end. Content.